Digital Society, an irregular podcast about life with technology produced by Dr. Travis Holland, that's me, at Charles Sturt University. Time for another student episode of Digital Society. This one features segments on social media by Anna Taylor, Courtney Baker, Amy Bunyan, and Fiona Powell.
Hello listeners, and welcome to this episode of Social Media Unfiltered. I'm your host, Anna Taylor. This episode we will explore social media and how it is actually decreasing our attention spans. First of all, what is social media? Social media is online platforms where users can create, share, and interact with content and other users. It may incorporate text, photos, videos, and audio. The most popular used social media platforms are Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Instagram primarily focuses on visual content where people can use it to share photos and videos to each other. The Reels feature is where short-form videos designed for quick consumption can be created, shared, and viewed. TikTok is a similar platform to Instagram Reels where users create, share, and consume videos that tend to range from 15 seconds to 3 minutes. Facebook also has similar features and short-form video content sharing as TikTok and Instagram. Social media posts entertain us as they consist of people following trends, spreading memes, completing challenges, and consuming something recently coined as brain rot. So what is quote-unquote brain rot? Well, brain rot is extreme cringe, chronically online content that people view as rotting our brains and as something contributing to our attention spans worsening. The rapid consumption of this type of short-form, mindless content can impact the brain's ability to form and retain long-term memories as it prioritizes short-term engagement over deep processing. The thing that unites these social media platforms and causes our worsening attention spans is our constant scrolling of short-form videos and pictures for up to hours. It can be so addicting because each like, comment, and share triggers a release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that we associate with pleasure and reward. This creates a cycle of dependency where we're constantly seeking these instant feelings of pleasure. Over time, this habit leads to our attention spans and concentration worsening as we are not provided with immediate gratification. This phenomenon particularly affects young people, children, teens, and young adults as they are growing up and developing in a digital age. Nowadays, over 50% of teens admit they feel addicted to their phones, and 60% of teenagers feel they lose focus in class due to poor attention spans. Overall, the average attention span has decreased from 12 seconds before the 2000s to 8 seconds in more recent years, which can be tracked back to social media and phone use. Moreover, there's growing concern that excessive social media use is linked to rising rates of ADHD among younger generations. ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is characterized by the symptoms of difficulty sustaining attention, hyperactivity, and impulsive behavior. The overuse of social media, specifically the consumption of short-form videos and overstimulation from content, causes ADHD symptoms, which can later lead to a diagnosis. The online resource, The Digital Child, emphasizes the role of social media in shaping children's cognitive development. They point out that the constant distraction and switching between tasks because of social media addiction can affect the development of sustained attention in young people. This is crucial because of the ability to focus is fundamental for learning and performing well in school. In fact, children and teenagers are particularly vulnerable as their brains are still developing. The neural pathways associated with attention and focus are heavily influenced by their environment and daily activities. When these activities predominantly involve constant social media consumption, it can lead to long-term changes in brain structure and function. I talked to Millie, a teenager, about her social media use and how it may have affected her attention span. Welcome, Millie. First of all, what social media platforms do you use?
I'd say I use Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok probably every day, and Facebook maybe like a few times a week.
And why do you use social media?
Honestly, I just scroll on social media anytime I have a free moment. It's almost become like muscle memory, I guess. Like to turn on my phone and open social media when I even get slightly bored.
Do you feel like it has had an effect on your attention span?
I would say it has, because I can barely finish a task or watch a movie without feeling the urge to reach for my phone and check all my social media.
Thank you, Millie, for your honesty and joining me in this episode. The Digital Child website provides research, information, and resources for parents, teachers, and policymakers about how to manage technology and social media use of young Australians to help their development. They have many different articles for a range of scenarios that will be able to provide anyone with information for their situation. The main idea that the Digital Child is trying to promote is that we need to implement screen use guidelines to create a healthier relationship between young people and their technology. It also suggests that everyone needs education about digital literacy, as it has an effect on everyone these days and will only benefit us to build healthier habits and lifestyles. Australia has policies to try and aid this issue. Firstly, they provide resources and education in e-safety commissioner initiatives for young people and their parents. This includes e-safety, which offers advice and strategies for young people to manage their online usage and protect their well-being, as well as programs in schools to educate students about the risks of social media and strategies to handle them effectively. Most schools in Australia also have policies about social media and phone use, in which it is mandated that phones should not be used on school grounds and computers can only be used for schoolwork. Many schools regulate this by blocking internet access to social media platforms and other distracting websites through the Wi-Fi, discouraging kids from using it. These strategies allow children to have screen-free time and encourages socialization and helps them be less likely to be distracted in class. Some of the policy that offers parents and carers of young people support are workshop and seminars, where they can learn how to support their children in developing healthy digital habits. There is also a range of online resources, guides, and tips for managing social media use of their loved ones. These efforts aim to promote a balanced and mindful approach to social media, helping teenagers maintain their attention spans and overall well-being. While there is always room for improvement and adaptation to new, the existing policies and programs provide a solid foundation for addressing these important issues. Overall, the usage of social media has caused people, especially young people, to have decreasing attention spans. However, in Australia, there are many resources that can help us get educated about this issue. I hope this episode has taught you something and has made you more conscious of your social media use. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. I'm Anna Taylor, and this has been Social Media Unfiltered. Catch you next time.
Hi, I'm your host Courtney, and today I'm going to be talking about social media as a piracy platform. Now, I'm sure this music brings back many memories for anyone who was into movies that was released between 2004 and 2007. You'd be sitting on the couch ready to watch a DVD or a VCR, and the first thing that pops on screen was a girl downloading with that music in the background. They would show you a series of videos of people stealing, whilst the caption said you wouldn't steal the items. It would end with the girl stopping the download before it finished and the words, "Piracy, it's a crime," slamming onto the screen. At the time, this was focused towards people who would burn DVDs or pirate them online from iconic sites such as Pirate Bay. In 2004, approximately 1 in 4 internet users admitted to illegal downloading, with 18% of Australians participating. This number rose in 2014 to 43% of Australians illegally downloading some type of content. As streaming services such as Netflix became more readily available, there was a gradual drop in the amount of illegal downloading. Much of this was due to the streaming services making it much easier to gain a larger amount of content. However, with the prices rising, pirated content has made a return. Pirating is still a tedious task. If you don't want to risk getting charged, you need a VPN. You need to install a program that will allow you to download, and then you got to find a torrenting website, which is harder than it sounds. You have to find the download button whilst also trying not to click on what looks like a download button but will really just give your computer nasty viruses or malware. And at that point, all you can do is pray that the downloaded copy is good. But now there's an easier way for anyone who wishes to watch their favourite content without having to go to the effort of paying or downloading it themselves. Introducing social media piracy, the fast and easier way to consume the content without having to do the hard work. Before we go any further, let's have a quick look at what piracy is. In the simplest definition, piracy is the reproduction of someone else's work. The work can either be pirated for private consumption or with the intent to distribute to others. For the purpose of this podcast, I'm going to focus on movies and TV shows and touch a little on sporting events. However, there's many more types of pirated content. Whilst it is illegal to download and distribute or own downloaded content, there is a little loophole where you can technically watch the content without risk of being charged as long as you didn't download it and you don't physically possess it, and this is where social media comes in. Now, social media was originally designed to help people connect with one another and has since allowed users to interact with companies and brands, create professional and personal relationships, and create and share virtually any type of content they wish, which is how people can now upload and stream full episodes, movies, and events illegally. There's currently a lot of academic research focused on social media and piracy, but as separate issues. However, social media as a piracy platform is a more recent concept, and as such, whilst there's a lot of articles and blog posts on the topic, there's not a lot of academic research. So I decided to get some first-hand opinions on the topic to see how often social media was used as a platform for piracy and if the users themselves realised or cared that they were doing it. So do you watch TV shows or movies on any form of social media?
Yes, I do. They're just there and I'm like, ooh, funny thing.
I do. I watch a lot of medical dramas like Grey's Anatomy, ER, Chicago Med, usually on Facebook though.
Yeah, generally just Facebook. But
Facebook?
Yeah.
Do you ever notice who releases the videos?
No.
No, you don't pay attention? You just
No, I'd never read any of that.
I think from memory, most of them are just random fan pages.
Did you realise most of the time that these are released, it's actually a form of piracy and they're being illegally uploaded to the social media pages?
Really? No, I didn't. But now that you've said it, I guess it makes sense, but I don't think I've ever consciously thought about it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Just some, well, I think piracy is, very common nowadays, and I think we just accept it to some degree.
It's pretty normal in society.
Yeah.
Hearing some of these responses made me curious to how many people knowingly watch pirated movies or TV shows on social media. So I created some yes or no questions to ask 200 customers who came into the business where I work and were willing to participate. The first and arguably most important question was, did they use social media? Of the 200 participants, 174 said yes. The next question was whether they watched full episodes or TV shows on their social media. Of the 174, there was 126 yeses. I then asked them if they knew the content they were watching was illegally uploaded by people other than the copyright holders. Of the 126, only 31 said no, and this left 95 people who knew they were watching pirated content. Now, I will admit, I have also watched pirated content on social media. Just looking at my Facebook videos right now, I can see full episodes of Law & Order SVU, Grey's Anatomy, Chicago Med and Chicago PD, along with other medical and crime shows. And I know this is the algorithm Facebook has created for me. It wasn't until I was watching an episode of Law & Order SVU that I noticed the content I was watching was pirated. At the beginning, when you have the infamous voiceover telling the audience about the Special Victims Squad, there's writing on the screen. However, when I watched it on Facebook, the writing was reversed and I didn't know why, but I suddenly noticed that the audio was also a slightly different pitch to normal, and then the penny dropped. I realised if you reverse the image and change the audio, no piracy detector will realise it's pirated content. And so began my dive into the rabbit hole of trying to understand social media as a platform for piracy and sharing of illegal content. This is where I came across the Family Guy pipeline. Now, this was an incident on TikTok where once a user watched a video for Family Guy, their newsfeed would begin to recommend Family Guy videos frequently. Some users reported having nothing except Family Guy videos on their newsfeed. These videos were different to normal Family Guy videos, as the top half of the screen would show the episode and there'd be full audio, but the bottom half of the screen would show basic gameplay of a repetitive jump or swiping game, or alternatively there'd be satisfying videos such as items melting or someone drawing. The use of adding additional video content to the Family Guy videos meant the content was no longer picked up for copyright issues. And whilst the full episodes aren't usually posted in one go on TikTok, they'd be posted over 5 or 6 videos so the whole episode could still be watched. And the forcing of the Family Guy content onto the news feeds by the algorithm increased the piracy, with bot accounts posting hundreds of episodes. Now let's look at one final angle. Along with downloading, possessing and distribution, it is also illegal to stream pirated content. In 2017, a highly anticipated fight between Danny Green and Anthony Mundine was illegally streamed live through Facebook. Foxtel was charging $60 for viewers to stream the match, whilst over 153,000 users streamed it for free on Facebook. If these people were to pay Foxtel to watch the match, Foxtel could have made over an additional $9 million. Football, soccer, fights, American sport are all often streamed live to platforms such as Facebook, especially if there is no availability in other countries or it would incur fees to watch. Since the beginning of illegal streaming to social media platforms, several sports, television and movie providers such as Sky Network have succeeded in gaining court orders to prevent the streaming and illegal distribution of the content, as this affects both their profits and budgets for future shows, movies or events. However, despite companies such as Facebook attempting to stop the sharing of copyrighted content, the subtle changes means the software doesn't detect the content as it being the same as the copyrighted content. There is a similar issue with streaming content. As it's being streamed live, there's nothing to compare it to. Now, all the TV shows, movies and sports that I have mentioned in this podcast are available on streaming services, DVD, providers such as Foxtel and free-to-air television. Yet there's still enough of an audience for pirates to justify downloading content and going to the effort of changing it so that it's not detected. So far, we have covered how and what people do to post this content, but not why. Now, I don't know anyone personally who illegally streams or uploads pirated content to social media, but I knew someone who does know people like that, and he was willing to give me a little insight as to why they do it.
Look, it's sort of like a Robin Hood thing. You know, take from the rich and give to the poor. A lot of them feel like the companies that produce this content make so much money and charge way too much, and they realise people are struggling and can't afford luxuries. So in uploading torrented files, they're giving anyone who watches a bit of happiness and joy, or even just an escape from everyday life, even if it's only for one episode or one match. Of course, not everyone who uploads this content does it for that reason. Some just do it for fun, or because they're interested in the technology, or they just want to see how easy it is to break the laws, or just an F you to the production companies.
I also had a chance to talk to someone who primarily watched streaming content along with shows and movies on Facebook, and she was willing to provide some understanding on why this was the case.
There's several reasons, really. First, the cost of living is so high that I can't afford to have streaming services anymore. Also, everything I watch is on Facebook. I go there for the news, to see what my family is doing and all of that sort of thing. Honestly, a lot of the time I don't even go there just to watch something, but it just pops up in my feed, so I will watch it. Plus, unlike my TV, I can pause my Facebook video and save it and come back to it.
And there you have it. You now know how, what and why people use social media as a piracy platform, and why the audience engages with it. So next time you're watching things on your social media, take the time to consider how using social media as a piracy platform will influence the future of both the companies producing the content and the future of social media platforms themselves.
Social media has taken the world by storm, and with so many young people getting famous quick, it's easy to see why many teenagers want to become influencers. Hi, my name's Amy, and on this episode of What the Fuck is Social Media, we'll be talking about why teens are wanting to become influencers more and more. The 21st century has opened a whole new world of career choices for the younger generations through social media platforms. And while social media can be a great way to be able to share your life with a large amount of friends and families from all over the world, it can be shocking to learn that children as young as 8 are joining several different social media channels to be seen as normal at their school, with or without their parents' permission. And since these kids and teens are now on social media, they are able to see other people that are around the same age as them have the dream life already, just because they blew up on social media. These successful people have been able to become well known on social media with a large following of people behind them, or as they're more commonly known, as influencers. Influencer culture has taken the world by storm, and it is defined as the growing trend of individuals gaining fame and influence on social media platforms. These influencers are often ordinary people who created some sort of content that resonates with a wide audience, turning them into digital celebrities very quickly. These type of celebrities have made teenagers want to become just like them, which has resulted in more and more kids and teens posting on social media as a way to get famous quick.
Get ready with me for school. Good morning and get ready with me for school. Get ready with me to go to school.
Many teens see this as the quickest way to a life where they don't have to truly work, and they get the money for doing nothing really, as they say. All they have to do is post a few videos a day and that's it. But how can you actually help a teenager who says they just want to be an influencer while they're at school? And what can teachers really do to help guide these students to the goal that they have? Over half of all teenagers in first world countries see influencing as an easy and successful career, that they believe it to be the ideal job for them. And we can't really blame them. From the minute we are old enough to understand, the importance of finding a career that will give us enough money to live is pushed onto us. So it's easy to see why so many teens want to become influencers. These ideas are ramped up even more after the success of TikTok, as teens are able to see other teens becoming famous by doing just a few silly videos. They are able to watch the life of a regular teenager turn into a successful career while earning a lot of money and getting paid by other companies, just by making videos. But many of these teens forget that it can be very rare for someone to become successful on social media, and that hoping for one of their videos to blow up randomly isn't enough, and that it can take a lot of time or work to get a following just on one social media account. And as more and more teens are wanting to become influencers, how can that impact their career aspirations? I spoke with a high school careers advisor to ask why teenagers are wanting to become influencers and how that conversation goes when they are giving advice to students about becoming influencers. What is your occupation?
I am a careers advisor in a high school in New South Wales. Careers advisors work with students to identify career pathways that they might be interested in post-school and to help them have a successful transition from school.
Why do you think more and more young people are wanting to become influencers?
I think a lot of young people are influenced by what they see on social media as being an idealistic or really exciting lifestyle, and they want that for themselves. I think they see that social influencing is potentially a career choice that is easy, and that it allows them to travel the world, experience new things and to try new products.
And how would you give a career advice when a student says they want to become an influencer?
As with any career choice that a student wants to look at, we sit down and we have a discussion. I would ask them what they know about that particular career, how they see themselves getting into that sort of career. We would discuss potentially the equipment that you need, the IT skills that you would need, and we would have a discussion about those. We might even see if we can look up some courses that you could do at a registered training organisation, so a national qualification or even something at university that might also fit the role of social influencer. But I would also very much be making sure to tell them that it is a niche career, and a niche career is something that very few people get to do and experience. And I'd also be promoting or encouraging them to come up with a plan B and a plan C if social influencing doesn't work for them.
Throughout the interview, it is clear to see that there isn't a direct answer that a high school careers advisor can give to a student that is wanting to become an influencer. All they can do is offer support. And when a student is asked questions about what they think it takes to be an influencer, they think it's all about making and posting videos to a public audience. She also stated in another part of the interview that unfortunately had audio issues so it could not be included. And it can sometimes feel disappointing to see just how many students idolize different influencers on social media and then decide to base the main goal of their future around becoming just like them after seeing just a minute of their life. I also asked another question that wasn't on the podcast, and it was, what do you think should be done about students wanting to become influencers? And she said, like many things, influencers aren't going to go away anytime soon. So it's important that we educate students more about what goes on behind the scenes. Not only that, she also stated that many teens that are influencers are at risk of being used by management businesses and sometimes their own families. So educating teenagers that want to be influencers about that side is very important. With the promise of a luxurious lifestyle and not ever having to worry about money, it is easy to see why so many teens are pulled into the idea of wanting to become social media influencers. And it might not be entirely the teenager's fault about wanting to become famous either, as it's now known that you are able to buy a child vlogging set, yes, a vlogging set, in the kids section of many well-known retail companies. And this is so sad to see, because kids are now spending more and more time on their phones or their handed phones to keep them occupied, allowing them to grow up scrolling through social media and watching other people post about their life. And as this continues more and more, teens are starting to have no other career aspirations other than to become famous, because in their eyes, this is how they get the luxurious lifestyle they see all over their media. We know that social media is never going to just go away ever again. So what is important is to share that influencing isn't all positive. And it's also to show teens that they need to have, like my interviewee said, a plan B, C, and D, because more times than not, influencing isn't going to work out for them. So the real question is, how can we help these young people that are wanting to be influencers? Or is there anything that we can do at all? Let me know your opinions on why you think more and more teens are wanting to become influencers on social media. Thanks for tuning in to What the Fuck is Social Media.
New developments in Australia's youth crime crisis this morning.
It seems every day we're talking about youth crime in Queensland.
And even though police are locking them up, the courts are letting them out.
What you just heard are snippets from major news networks in Australia. The topic? Youth crime. But what if I told you that youth crime is the lowest it's been in 20 years? Yeah, you're going to have a few questions, so hang around and let's chat about it. welcome to the podcast. My name is Fee, and let's dive into it because this topic really interests me. I live in a small mining town of about 6,000 people in central Queensland, and I know about all the crimes happening around town. Not because I'm chatting to people, but because it's posted all over social media. We have a community notice board on Facebook, and it's regularly flooded with crimes or suspicious people and events. There's even now a dedicated Crime Watch Facebook page because, like the media said...
And even though police are locking them up, the courts are letting them out.
And I want to stay safe. That's what's great about participatory media, right? It's a two-way interaction of people being able to like and share news or even post news themselves as a form of citizen journalism. Or is it that good? See, this narrative forms a picture of a generation out of control because of a failed justice system. But it ignores the research showing that youth crime is lower than it was a decade ago. And it's just 5% of youth offenders that are responsible for almost half the youth crimes committed across Australia. Now, I'm going to be honest, I found this shocking because never once did I doubt that there was a crime pandemic. And I'm not alone. A Commonwealth survey found in 2022, 3/4 of respondents felt safe at their home at night time. Yet a year later, that same survey showed these figures had flipped, and 3/4 of respondents had taken steps to secure their home better, and 50% felt that youth crime was at a crisis point. Now, this is interesting because it's not reflective of the success stories within our restorative justice process. They have a success rate of reducing reoffending in 80% of youth offenders. So this brings the question, right? Is it wrong data, or is this a great success story that we're not even talking about? Well, I wanted to go straight to the source, so I spoke with restorative justice convener Nikki McNamara on how media coverage affects their program. Nikki, why is it so accepted by the public that youth crime is out of control at the moment in Australia?
Because fear sells. Although repeat offending criminals makes up less than 0.1% of the youth population, internet media in particular feeds upon the anger of victims of crime and perceptions that the government is not acting in order to sell advertising space.
Oh, I can hear your little daughter there. Tell me, Nikki, what's the flow-on effects from this? How does this further shape public perceptions?
Facebook crime groups run by and subscribed to by any interested persons have become echo chambers for youth crime misinformation and have propelled intense hatred and even violence towards youth who have already experienced extreme childhood disadvantage and vulnerability.
So what's the solution here? You work in this field every day. What is the change that you want to see in the media?
Restore the journalistic integrity of media through fact-checking regulations, particularly with regard to public services, government and politics. Furthermore, governments must be held to account for unnecessarily withholding youth crime statistics from the public, which do not personally identify individual children. Failure to be transparent about the facts of this matter only speaks to the political motivations of a government who would win votes by locking up more children than genuinely changing lives.
So here I am, studying to be an ethical and non-biased communication professional, and I got completely blindsided that I had not even considered my own standpoint on youth crime. This is exactly what my poor lecturers have been trying to teach me. So this is a lesson that I have learnt, and now I'm sharing with you, dear listener. As communication professionals, participatory media must be absorbed critically, because the work that we're going to produce in our roles becomes part of the participatory cycle. So are we going to have a positive or negative impact? Jean Allen's a PhD student at Auckland University and did a TED Talk called Stereotyping is No Laughing Matter. Her story about studying how Auckland's youth were stereotyped and how they responded to this is a powerful story in this context. So here's a snippet of her talk.
Stereotypes around their community had really injured them, and in some cases had caused so much harm that they ended up destroying dreams. One of the youth, named Chris, told me about his dream of attending aviation college. He told me that he went to an open day, and as part of the group he was with, he was asked to introduce himself, give a bit of background and say where he came from. So he stood up, told everyone he was from Mangere in South Auckland, and that he was really excited about attending aviation college the following year. Chris told me that his announcement of coming from Mangere in South Auckland was met with smirks, whispers behind hands, and general looks of disapproval. Chris told me this made him feel so bad, like he didn't belong there. So what did Chris do? Chris left aviation college that day, and he has yet to pursue his dream.
So I want you to stop for a moment and think about how you feel about crime. Does youth crime make you feel scared? And why do you feel that way? Is it something that you've heard in the media or a post that your friend has shared on social media? Do you see today's youths differently? Well, the University of Southern Queensland, the USQ, they studied our youth and found that the fear of being judged negatively was their growing fear. And being perceived as bad just because they're young was more likely to socially isolate them. This then leads to marginalisation and increased risk in problematic behaviours such as crime. So maybe like me, this has broadened your understanding and perspective on youth crime in Australia, and also how you perceive what you see through participatory media platforms. But what can we do about it? Well, that USQ group suggested that the first step is acknowledging it's a complex issue. Many young offenders have been victims of crimes themselves and are caught in this cycle of disadvantage that increases their risk of reoffending. Secondly, there are some great programs that are making real change and justice. Circle sentencing is a method of alternate to our court system that allows the perpetrator who has pleaded guilty to meet with the victim, family members, and members of the community to understand the motivations and impacts of their actions. This can be healing for victims of crimes as well, who are able to express how the event has impacted their lives and that of the community. And this is before then the magistrate makes their final decision. It's the process that has had an 80% success rate in reducing reoffences. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. For me, the takeaway here is communications is more than just making strategies, producing content, and analysing data. It's about understanding the broader communications environment, how they link together, their impacts, and the role that we now play in that world. Particularly, it'll be interesting to see how the evolution of artificial technology impacts it. If this topic interests you and you want to find out more, I recommend following someone like Gary Vee, serial entrepreneur, and always has incredible insights into participatory media platforms and trends. As well, you can follow TEDx Talks because they quite often bring new and innovative information into broader public knowledge. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for listening.
This has been a student-produced episode of Digital Society. The segments were by Anna Taylor, Courtney Baker, Amy Bunyan, and Fiona Powell. Thanks for listening. Background music by Audio Coffee.